I raised my hand because today is my 27th anniversary of Gray Sheet Abstinence. September 16th, 1994 is when I had my last day one. So it's an anniversary for, 27 years ago, I surrendered. And the question since then has been how to be abstinent, not whether to be abstinent. That's one of my things that my first sponsor, almost everything that I know that I pass on in Gray Sheet has been passed on to me from my very first sponsor. I was really, really lucky. And she said, the question is not whether I'm going to be abstinent, it's how I'm going to be abstinent. So it's not been without challenges over the last 27 years. And I can share some of those, but there's been no doubt in my mind, not a shred of doubt, that I didn't want to be abstinent, that I didn't want to be surrendered, that I didn't want to, just turn this whole thing over to a sponsor and follow direction, no matter how hard the directions might be, because that's how I got the peace and the serenity. Before the meeting, one of the members was mentioning the freedoms that are talked about in the Gray Sheet 12 and 12. And of course, they're the promises from the AA Big Book. And all of those freedoms and promises I've gotten, but it's from abstinence. I had to be abstinent to get them. I was sober before in two programs from two sets of addictions. And my AA sponsor said, if you're not happy, joyous, and free, you're practicing another addiction. And I wasn't happy, joyous, and free until I got abstinent. And I've been happy, joyous, and free since then. And free being the operative word, that's the freedom. Oh my God, the freedom. Freedom from, freedom from obsession, freedom from self-loathing, freedom from sedation, freedom from guilt about everything to do with my body and my food. And, they talk in the AA Big Book about fear being a corrosive thread that runs through our whole life. Well, my food addiction is sort of like that corrosive thread because it affected everything. I am the person I am today with all that is good and bad about me because of my food addiction. So I had to get the food I thought I needed or I would die. So I was willing to walk over you. I was willing to use and abuse you. I was willing to lie, cheat, and steal. I was willing to scheme, manipulate, and deceive. And I learned how to do that because I needed to get that food. And I also knew from the earliest age that that was not okay. So therefore I had to do it in secret. I felt guilty about it. And I hated myself for it, but I had to do it. And so no ethics or morals, we had ethics and morals galore, as it says in the AA Big Book, didn't do me a damn bit of good. I had ethics galore, could not, sorry, there's somebody drilling in the background. I could not follow my own ethical standards because to get the food and to hide it, and everything about it, I had to lie, cheat, and steal. And then it just became who I was. I opened my mouth and out came a lie, whether I needed to or not, whether it was relevant or not. I could not tell the truth to save my life. And that core belief that if you knew what I did with the food, you would run screaming from the room and you'd hate me, that belief permeated everything. If you knew who I was, you would hate me. So the fact that I was a compulsive person around food, it is what led me to think that I had to hide everything about myself. What I felt, what I thought, what I wanted, what I didn't like, what I liked. just everything. And so I never really, and first of all, not only was I physiologically sedated by the food and mentally completely obsessed, every waking moment, the primary thought filling my brain was to do with food and body size and exercise, which was the corollary, And so I didn't have time for figuring out what I felt or what I thought or, anything. I didn't have time or energy. I didn't have, the modern word is I didn't have the bandwidth. My bandwidth was all taken up by this obsession. So when I got abstinent, when I first got abstinent in October of 1993, I'll tell you this, when I was working with a mine, I used to consult with a mine in Montana, and they told me it's a strip mine where they strip the coal off the earth they don't go underground, they just strip it off the top of the planet. And they said, when you take off the overlay of dirt and then you take off the coal, the earth underneath actually lifts up by feet because of the weight that has been removed from on top of it. And that is what it was like for me in 1993. When the food was removed as a problem, I was like a balloon filling space. I was everything. First of all, I was bouncing off the walls with energy. I had feelings that went like up and down and around. I hated you, I loved you, I wanted to be alone, I wanted to do everything in the world, I wanted to do nothing. I had schemes and plans and ideas, and it was exhausting. But it was like the bounce of the earth after the coal is removed. It was like that food problem kept me compressed for 30 years. And it did start at birth, because I don't have a single memory when I didn't have guilt around food. I don't have a single memory when I didn't want more. And I knew it was wrong to want more. So when I got abstinent, it was like being freed from jail, on multiple levels. And God, thank you for the program and the steps and the fact that we have this structure that says go to a meeting, talk to 3 GreySheeters every day, read the literature, pray, meditate, do service. If I didn't have that scaffolding, I would have just exploded like the universe. And I'd be like, how the universe is expanding at a faster and faster rate. That would have been me. I would have just gone exploding into the universe. My life would have just collapsed under the sort of rebound effect of getting liberated from this disease. And so being told that I needed to show up at meetings, that I needed to raise my hand, that I needed to go to GreySheet events, that I needed to do service, all of that stuff was like putting the structure back in my life. And all I had to do was get from one GreySheet meal to the next, to the meeting, to the phone call, to the roundup, to the service commitment. It was small pieces. If you would have just taken this disease away and said, now go forth and live your life, I'd be in a loony bin somewhere. So the genius of this program is it gives me the solution, not only to my food problem, but to life after a food problem. I don't have a food problem today, but I still have a Grainne problem. All the strange mental twists that this disease caused in my development are still there, and they're untwisting in front of my very eyes. I still have to fight. It's only, I would say, I've been abstinent with that exception since 94, and it's only been in the last 5 to 10 years that I would say, thank you, Aga, that I would say I don't open my mouth and have a lie come out automatically. Like, I open my mouth now and I have a conscious thought about what I'm going to say. And I have to say, do I have the courage to be the real me and tell the real truth? Or do I keep my mouth shut? Or do I lie? And I do still lie once in a while. Not like, I'm quite happy with my progress in that area, but it's still a conscious effort. It's still a thought. Do I have the courage to say what I mean? Do I have the courage to ask? Do I have the courage to say no? It doesn't come easy, because every time I reveal myself to you, you might reject me. And if you reject the real me, then who am I gonna, like, what am I left with? I need you guys. I need people. I need my family. I need my friends. I need GreySheeters. I need people. Do I need you guys? And, you know, I remember when my sponsor, you know, she came from New York to Kalamazoo, Michigan. She was the only GreySheeter. She brought the program to me. Nobody else was interested. I got abstinent, she was abstinent, and after a year, her sabbatical year there was up, and she was leaving town. And as the months went by, I got scared. I thought, what am I going to do? I'm going to be all alone. I'll be the only GreySheeter. Now, this was in 93, 94, so there was no GreyNet, there was no World Wide Web, there was no phone bridge meetings. And she said, and then also I was just afraid that I would lose her in general. And she said, as long as there's one other GreySheeter to whom you can commit your food, you can be abstinent, but it's a whole lot easier with a bunch of GreySheeters. So that, you know, that was helpful, because I had a lot of panic about losing you guys. Sometimes when there's controversy in the program, I feel panic, like, oh my God, what if GreySheet implodes and there is no GreySheet, and then we splinter like OA did. We splinter into 50 different programs, and none of us are doing the same thing anymore, and there aren't meetings to go to, and there aren't GreySheet events, and there aren't people with 40 years to call for their experience. How am I going to be abstinent? It can be scary. As long as there's one other GreySheeter abstinent, I can be abstinent. And then the other thing she told me was to lean on her, because she would lean on the people in New York. She had the people she was going to lean on, so I could lean on her. I could never need too much from my sponsor. I was never to restrict or restrain myself from asking for help, asking for information, that she was responsible for taking care of herself, and she had people to do that with. So this program may be small, but it is mighty, and it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't, what do they say, will never be a mass movement? There are never going to be millions of GreySheeters, but it doesn't take millions of GreySheeters for me to stay abstinent. It only takes, you know, we've got about 1,000 and I'm doing fine. So anyway, thank you, Aga. I'll close on, it says in the big book of AA that we are reborn, and I was reborn when I got abstinent. And really, I was born into life as I think it's supposed to be lived, which is with no one thing poisoning everything else, and with all the challenges that life brings for me to learn and grow and serve and be of maximum usefulness. I get to do that today because, as we say in GreySheet, the food is down. I love that phrase. The food is down. The food is in its place. The food is no longer my problem. Now I can turn all my energy and effort and intelligence and willingness to being of maximum usefulness to my fellow human being, and especially the ones right here, right in front of me, the people that are closest to me, people in this program, the people in AA, the people in my family, people in my community. And I'm grateful for that. It is the reason for living. You know, being of maximum usefulness, thank you, Aga, is the reward of living. Thanks.